So it's summertime again, and we're out in the middle of the woods, and that must mean it's youth camp. So I'm here, youth camp for the church, having a good time. We did some kayaking, we did some biking, we did a whole bunch of hiking, and I meant to record a video basically all week, and now we're packing up. So I thought I should get on that. Procrastination, it's a thing. So in this video, I wanted to talk about a comment that someone left for me. I'll read it for you now. It's Christian Sanchez, FT7DT. He says, "Hey man, I really appreciate your advice. I'm an engineering student with ADHD and I've been having a rough time trying to keep up with everything, but ultimately still failing. It sucks a lot, but your advice on failing fast resonated with me because I do the exact same thing, but I have trouble with being confident about my results because I start thinking it isn't perfect. Anyways, keep making these videos. It matters to people who go through the same thing." So Christian Sanchez, FT7DT, thanks, appreciate the comment. Definitely keep making the videos because that's why we're doing it, so we can help people so they don't have to go through the same crap that I did. By the way, this video is brought to you by bringing your own breakfast to campouts so that you don't have to wait for other people to make food when it's their turn and you can just eat when you're hungry, which is always a good idea. So Christian and anybody else who cares, I thought I'd talk about how I got through engineering school. I was actually going into 3D animation, and then a bunch of stuff happened in the industry, and 3D animation was not a good place to be. I would end up working 80-hour weeks, and before I know it, be on my third marriage, and yeah, it's just not the life I wanted to live. So I had the chance to work on some conceptual artwork for a scuba mask project. This wasn't part of school. It was just something that we were doing on the side. I had such a good time doing it, and I was working with an engineer that the company hired, and I would send him all of my artistic drawings and he would put them into CAD software. And for those of you that don't know, CAD is computer assisted design or computer aided design, depending on who you ask. And it's the software that engineers use in order to make three-dimensional shapes when they're going to produce something. So he would put it into CAD and he would send it to me and I would look at it and it would look horrible and it wouldn't look anything like what I had sent him. And so I thought to myself, I can do his job. So I switched my majors and decided to go engineering, mechanical engineering. And then a couple of really important things happened. First one was there really wasn't a mechanical engineering major at where I was going, which is a problem. Obviously, you want to go somewhere that you're going to get a good degree that's worthwhile. So I started to look around and there were several universities in the area. I did my homework. I found out that both of them were pretty high up there on the ranking for mechanical engineering, but I ultimately went with the one that taught me how to weld and run a CNC machine and run a lathe and actually make stuff. And that turned out to be really critical because you can't design anything if you've never made anything. Well, you can't design it well, which I found out later in my career. Not from my own efforts, but from the efforts of others. So that's the first thing that happened. The second one was that someone who is a family member basically told me how much math was involved in getting an engineering degree and that it would be very, very difficult and I wouldn't be able to do it. I don't want this person to feel bad if they decide to watch this video. I don't want them to feel bad because that is one of the key things that got me through the degree, was that. So I didn't know it at the time, but, well, I didn't know a lot of things at the time, like I had ADHD, but ADHD, one of the comorbidities, that's the lovely little gifts that comes along with it, in a package, is that one of the things that comes along with ADHD can be oppositional defiant disorder, where you basically want to rebel and give the finger to anybody and everything. And so I didn't understand that at the time. But when this person told me that the math would be really hard and I couldn't do it, I went into full you can't tell me what to do mode, and I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to show you. I really have this person to thank for making it through getting my engineering degree. Every time it got difficult, I would think back to that conversation and I would say to myself, nope, I've got to show them that I can actually do it. And I've got to make myself get through this. And there are plenty of times when it got really, really hard and I wanted to throw in the towel. So anyway, the oppositional defiant disorder, that's the first thing really that happened. The second thing that happened was very early on in my degree, I found a really good group of friends. And we all helped each other when we didn't want to do the homework or when prepping for tests or when things were getting really rough. There were several classes where that happened. many classes where that happened. We would bolster each other up. We would study together. We would explain concepts to each other, which helped us retain it, which is great, but it also kept us accountable. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was using another engineering tactic that's referred to as body doubling, where you have someone there and that helps you to be able to get things done. So we're essentially doing body doubling for prepping for tests and for doing homework and for projects and all those other things that we were doing. Something I came to realize in the middle of my degree was it was in my hands. I had a college professor that I had to take multiple classes from him. He was absolutely the worst teacher ever. He had a very, very thick South American accent, and he had these super thick Coke bottle glasses, and he would kind of peer at things like he couldn't see, so not really sure if his prescription was right or not. He would lose homework all the time. He would lose people's tests. He was a nightmare as a teacher. And after taking multiple classes from this professor, I was under the impression that he was essentially incompetent and he had no idea what he was doing. And so I basically wrote off everything that he was saying. In my senior year, I had to take one more class from this professor, and at the beginning of the class, I said to myself, I am going to force him to teach me. And so at the beginning of each lecture that we went to, he would ask if there were any questions, and I would raise my hand and I would just pepper him with questions. I would keep asking questions over and over and over and over again until he would say, enough questions, let's move on with the lecture. And it usually took about 10 minutes or so to get to that point. By the way, at this point, everyone else would be on their laptops playing video games because they were totally tuned out of the class and they didn't really care what he had to say. But I and my group of friends were like really focused on the answers that he would give because we were forcing him to teach us. And it actually worked out really well. It was a tough class. I came to realize that he actually knew what he was talking about. He had mastery over the material, he just didn't know how to teach. And that's really the case with a lot of college professors. They get there because they know stuff, not because they know how to teach people. So yeah, it's really important to be accountable and to recognize what do you want to get out of this, and then to make it happen. Have that personal accountability so that you're going to be sure that you're going to get what you want out of it. Oh, and it is absolutely of critical paramount importance that you have people that are in your corner that are cheering you on and that are helping you get there. Now, the friend group for me helped with a lot of that. We were trying to really assist each other in getting there, but I was also married and had small children, and it was very obvious what I was doing this for. I needed to be able to provide for them. And so I needed to get a good job, and I needed to get them in a house where we were out of an apartment and all of those things. And so yeah, there was a huge deal of motivation for me to finish that degree. Otherwise, I was not going to be able to give them the life that I thought that they needed. I think the last point I really want to mention in this video, there's a bunch of other stuff, but I'm trying to keep this brief. The last point is Finnegan's Fabulous Fudge Factor. In some of these classes, we would do calculations that would take 5 pages of 8.5 by 11 paper, front and back, in order to get a single answer. And usually that answer would be wrong. And it took hours to get to that point. And so I didn't have the time to do that. I was going to school, I was working 3 jobs, and so I would essentially just apply Finnegan's Fabulous Fudge Factor to the answer. And Finnegan's Fabulous Fudge Factor is a constant variable that you multiply or divide or add or subtract your answer to in order to get the answer that's in the back of the book. And essentially what that means is, it's a joke, really. It's you come up with a number that you need to do something to your answer with in order to get the answer that's in the back of the book so that you get it right. But the point I'm trying to make with Finnegan's Fabulous Fudge Factor is it taught me that when you're overloaded with things to do and there just aren't enough hours in the day, you know, family, small kids, 3 jobs, and school on top of that, you just can't get it all done. And so I was forced to not be a perfectionist. And I had instead to do the best I could with the time I had, and it was stressful. And it certainly didn't break me of perfectionism. I still have plenty of things with perfectionism that I'm dealing with, but done is better than perfect. That's really what that boils down to. So Christian Sanchez, FT7DT, I hope this helps. Just remember, We can put structures in place to help with our ADHD weaknesses, and we can use our ADHD strengths in order to overcome these challenges, like doing something hard, like getting an engineering degree. And so for the rest of us, this is a good reminder to do hard stuff and keep doing hard stuff because it helps us grow. It forces us to become better than we were. And with that, thanks for spending time with me today. I appreciate you. And I look forward to the next one where we engineer the crap out of ADHD.